This may be the second to last edition of Batmay for this year, but we've reached the final episode that aired, not just for Season 2, but the original run of Batman the Animated Series as a whole. Of course, we still have 32 installments to get through because number 1, we're continuing to proceed in the creative team's preferred production order, and number 2, I'm including the new Batman adventures in our coverage, which will start and complete next year. But September 15th, 1995 was the last day fans saw a new Batman episode until the next series started 2 full years later. This story is all about Alfred. After receiving an urgent call from his cousin, Freddie, Pennyworth hurriedly flies to London, leaving a note for Bruce and Dick. Once there, he's abducted by a pair of thugs and brought to Blairquan Castle in Scotland. Red Claw is revealed to be the mastermind behind this situation, and she's now captured both Frederick and Alfred. She's discovered that there's a hidden ballistic missile silo inside the castle, and the 2 men she has in her custody are among the only people in the world who know the 2-part password to activate it. Red Claw demands £5 billion from the British government, or she'll blow up London. Meanwhile, Bruce is tipped off that something's wrong after receiving a distressing call from Pennyworth as he was being taken. Batman and Robin fly overseas to bring him home, and on the way, Wayne informs Grayson of Alfred's past as a government agent in the British Secret Services, which is why he holds such massively important information. The dynamic duo go international to stop the missile and retrieve their loyal friend in The Lion and the Unicorn. This episode has 3 writers attached to it. Steve Perry we know from a few other installments, including the recently reviewed Time Out of Joint, but this is the sole credit for the other 2. Peter Morwood, incorrectly referred to as Philip Morwood in the credits, is primarily a novelist who only has a few TV scripts to his name, this being one of them. His wife, Diane Duane, has significantly more television scripts in her filmography, while also being a prominent science fiction and fantasy author herself. Together, the trio crafted an entertaining spy story that expanded past Gotham. With the ever-reliable Boyd Kirkland on board as director, The Lion and the Unicorn proved to have a different tone than many other episodes. It's memorable for the information we got on Alfred's backstory and the scenery change of seeing Batman and Robin operate in the UK. They tried to make London look distinct from Gotham by upping the fog and putting that hazy filter on the image. One of my favorite scenes is when our heroes interact with a few government officials.
Him and that fellow from Clerical.
Pennyworth. Alfred Pennyworth.
How did you get in here?
We don't have time for protocol. What was the name of that castle?
And why should we give you that information?
Because I can give you Red Claw.
The music by Brian Langsberg also aids the story by creating a unique aura to the sequences overseas. Langsberg only worked on this and the episode Lockup, but I enjoyed his score. Red Claw makes her second and final BTAS appearance in The Lion and the Unicorn. It's fitting that she's the last villain featured in the air date order before everything was revamped 2 years later, since she was the first pure antagonist audiences saw in The Cat and the Claw Part 1, which premiered the series in 1992. As a character, she's okay. Honestly, not all that special, but it was cool to see her make a comeback outside of Gotham. The henchmen used by Red Claw to apprehend Alfred and later fight Batman and Robin are named Bert and Ernie, which is hilarious. Could just be the bumbling British thing, but they also remind me of Jasper and Horace from 101 Dalmatians.
Grab him, Bert.
I don't know about this, Ernie.
Red Claw has a lot of interesting characters in her employ, actually. Waluigi's even back for this episode. While we get a lot of entertaining action and intrigue, the best parts of the story for me are when Bruce talks about Alfred's background.
Underneath Alfred's very proper exterior is a highly resourceful government agent.
Poor Alfred, he must have been petrified.
I doubt it. He was pretty formidable in his day.
I've mentioned before that I'm a big Alfred fan, so anytime he's the focus of an episode, it's usually a good time. This was a bonus since we got to hear about his past as an agent. They've expanded on that idea over the years, and old Alfie even has his own show on Epix and HBO Max. I've never seen it, but if you have, let me know how it is in the comments. Spoilers for the finale. After using Truth Serum, Frederick and much later Alfred give up the codes to the missile. Batman and Robin arrive at Blairquan and fight their way to the control room, but it's too late. Red Claw activates the launch sequence, targeting Trafalgar Square in London. Batman rushes to the Batwing in hopes of taking out the missile in midair, but Red Claw pops out of the back, having hidden inside. His mask is pulled off in the struggle, but Bruce ejects the villain from the plane, landing her in the body of water below. With no mask or top to the cockpit, Bruce catches up to the missile and fires a few of his own just in time. They connect, neutralizing the ballistics missile right in front of Big Ben. The Batman has saved London. At the airport, sometime later, we see Alfred and Frederick saying their goodbyes. The latter tries to convince the former to come out of retirement and rejoin the service, but Alfred simply says he's become accustomed to his current style of living and begins the journey back to Gotham. The Lion and the Unicorn has a lot of good stuff in it, and again, I love myself some Alfred, so I'll give it a recommendation. It's not a top-tier episode, but it does have enough unique aspects that I think you should check it out or give it a rewatch. Plus, it's fun to go back and see the last installment they aired that featured this animation and aesthetic style. We'll see you next time on 2022's last installment of Batman.
The Lion and the Unicorn fighting for the crown.